Police confirm 16 killed in Kajuru attack in Kaduna State. Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC commits Imo State Governor Rochas Okorocha from Senators-elect list. In international news, UK Prime Minister makes last-stage efforts to get her Brexit deal approved by lawmakers. And in sport, Zinedine Zidane is back in Real Madrid.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. The Kaduna State Police Command has confirmed 16 people were killed by unknown gunmen in Angwo-Bode, Kajuru local government area of the state. Police say Anguwan Gora, also in Kajuru local government area, reportedly came under attack on Monday evening. Police Command spokesman Yakubu Sabo said on Monday armed men entered Bade village in Kajuru local government area and started shooting sporadically, killing 16 persons. Sabo says the command mobilized teams of police operatives to the area along with military personnel with a view to apprehending the perpetrators and bringing normalcy to the area. He said the operation was still ongoing, but that the situation is now under control. Commissioner of Police Ahmed Abdurrahman has vowed to uncover the masterminds and bring them to justice. The federal government says there is no going back on the April date for the integration of the national identity number with a new 10-year passport. Nigerian Immigration Service Controller General Mohammed Babandade revealed this while on a courtesy visit on the National Identity Management Commission Director General Aliyu Aziz. The news agency of Nigeria reports the Immigration Service has postponed the issuance of the new passport from March to April. Babandade explained that the postponement was to ensure that every Nigerian in the country or abroad must have NIN before getting the new 10-year improved e-passport. He said with the collaborative efforts of the two agencies, there would be no cases of multiple identities. The Immigration Board said a test run has been carried out with 1,000 samples of biometric identity. Nigerians have begun to panic about the recurring crash of Boeing 737 MAX 8 aircraft and have expressed concerns over the safety of innocent passengers. It is the second time in fewer than 6 months that a new Boeing MAX 8 aircraft has crashed just minutes into a flight. Nigerians took to social media and particularly Twitter to express their fears of a report that the Nigerian carrier Air Peace has made a deal with a US-based aircraft manufacturer Boeing to buy 10 of the 737 MAX 8. But the aircraft says there is no plan to cancel its order, even though there is worldwide concern about the aircraft's safety. Many countries have now grounded those aircraft. Air Peace spokesman says it is too late for the airline to cancel its order. Air Peace Corporate Communications Manager Chris Nwada says the airline will continue to act in the interest of the safety of the flying public. Ethiopian Airlines has grounded all B737-800 MAX aircraft in its fleet till further notice following Sunday's crash of its flight 830. Imo State's Governor Rochas Okorocha is not on the list of senators-elect that will receive certificates of return from the Independent National Electoral Commission. On its website, where the names of all the senators-elect were published, the commission claimed the winner of the Imo West Senatorial District election was announced under duress. The returning officer for the election in Imo State, Professor Francis Ibewuchi, declared Okorocha as winner of the poll with 97,762 votes, ahead of his closest rival, Jones Oyere of the People's Democratic Party, who had 68,117 votes. But the PDP and All Progressives Grand Alliance had protested against the declaration of Okorocha as winner of the election. Ibewuchi claimed he was forced to declare Okorocha as the winner to save his life. Meanwhile, the commission is to hold supplementary elections in 7 districts in Abia South, Imo North, Kogi East, Ondo South, Rivers East, and West. Kwara State Governor-elect Abdurrahman Abdulrazak says his administration would pay more to the North Senatorial District in infrastructure development. Abdulrazak says there is total lack of infrastructure there. The governor-elect said this at a party attended by all elected All Progressives Congress officials. The event was organized to appreciate APC members and leaders following huge successes at the polls. Abdulrazak said he would do everything to justify people's confidence in him and other APC lawmakers-elect. He said his campaign tours of the state exposed him to the huge infrastructure deficits in the state, especially in the northern districts. The Independent National Electoral Commission has continued its declaration of results of the governorship and state houses of assembly elections conducted across the country on Saturday. INEC declared inconclusive governorship polls in Kano, Sokoto, Benue, Bauchi, Adamawa and Plateau. While INEC has stopped the announcement of results in Rivers State because of violence that engulfed the state, the commission has also controversially halted the announcement of governorship election in Kano State. People's Democratic Party has accused Commission Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu of alleged playing the script of the ruling All Progressives Congress by declaring governorship elections in those states inconclusive. In Adamawa State, chapter of the People's Democratic Party says the party is ready to take part in the rerun of the state's governorship election declared inconclusive by INEC. The commission says massive cancellation of votes as a result of overvoting, non-usage of card readers and electoral violence were responsible for its decision. It says the cancellation led to activation of the huge margin before the state collation officer, Andrew Haruna, declared the election inconclusive. The candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Amado Fintiri, was on a lead ahead of the state's governor, Jibrila Bindo, who is the candidate of the All Progressives Congress. The returning officer disclosed the voided ballot in polling units across 13 local government areas of the state hindered Fintiri from crossing the victory line. Haruna says the affected polling units are in 29 registration wards of the 13 local government areas. To court matters, the Federal High Court in Lagos has fixed May the 6th for judgment in a lawsuit filed by human rights lawyer Femi Falano, seeking to compel the federal government to fix the Oshodi-Apapa Expressway in Lagos and end intractable gridlock there. Falana is urging the court to declare the parking of tankers and trailers on overhead bridges in Lagos is illegal and that it constitutes a threat to the citizens' fundamental rights to life. He is also urging the courts to declare that the federal government's failure to remove obstructions, repair and maintain the Oshodi-Apapa Expressway was a violation of Section 33 of the Constitution, which guarantees the citizens' right of life. He is contending that by failing to make the road safe for motorists, the government has violated the citizens' right to freedom of movement guaranteed by Section 41 of the Constitution. Coming up, African stories, Algerian President Bouteflika finally promises to step down. And later, international news, last chance for Theresa May as lawmakers vote on her Brexit plan.
You are watching ANN.
This used to be me. But that was before I got the perfect bag. It's handy and easy to use. All I need in one compact space, just like my MTN Extra Value plan. I used to get one plan for my calls and then try to remember which data plan worked for me. Roaming was a totally different ballgame. Not anymore. I've got the MTN Extra Value all-in-one plan. If you're a data buff like me, you get extra data with some talk time. And if you like to make calls, you get extra talk time with some data. And when I'm abroad, I automatically browse, chat, and call right on the same plan. MTN Extra Value was made just for me.
More of data or calls, whichever one you prefer. MTN Extra Value is made just for you.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to news across Africa. After nearly a month of protest, Algerian President Abdelaziz Bouteflika has promised to end his 20-year rule and usher in political reforms. He promised an appropriate response to the demands of demonstrators. The presidency also announced the country's national election, originally scheduled for mid-April, would be postponed pending a national conference on political and constitutional reform. The president also promised an interim leadership structure to oversee the new vote. Tens of thousands of demonstrators had taken to the streets in recent weeks to demand that Bouteflika, who has been in power since 1999, finally step down. Prime Minister Ahmed Ouyahia also announced his resignation, and the president signaled that there would be a cabinet reshuffle. Brazil, China, India, Indonesia, Mexico, Singapore, the Cayman Islands and Zimbabwe have joined Ethiopia in announcing they have grounded all Boeing 737 MAX 8 aircraft following the crash of an Ethiopian airline MAX 8 jetliner. The list of countries is growing, but Zimbabwe says it has blacklisted the aircraft as unsafe because of its malfunction in autopilot software. Investigators have found the flight recorders from the field where the plane went down. An official said one of the recorders was partially damaged. He said they will see what can be retrieved from it. As Ethiopia observed a day of mourning, Red Cross workers slowly picked through the widely scattered debris near the blackened crash crater, looking for the remains of the dead while heavy machinery dug for larger pieces of the plane. Ethiopian authorities are leading the investigation into the crash. They're being assisted by teams from the US, Kenya, and other countries. Latest economic reports in South Africa say the country's economy is still under strain, even though it has experienced modest gain. Latest reports say implementation of its education policy could negatively affect the national budget. Here's a report to break it all down.
Some economists believe the economy is on the mend, but others are saying it's still in critical condition. It's been just over a year since Cyril Ramaphosa took over as president. Since then, there's been progress in improving governance, but there's been little success in reviving the economy.
So if you look at the growth in South Africa, it still remains fairly modest into the start of 2019. We think at the moment that the consumer is generally under a little bit of pressure. We know that consumer income has been struggling. Salary increases are fairly modest. Bonus payments have been cut. We also know the consumer is facing some price pressures in terms of fuel, interest rate hikes that went up in November, electricity price that will go up in the middle of the year.
Corporate South Africa is also feeling the pain, but it's the small business sector that's bearing the brunt of the slow growth. High electricity costs and unstable supply have forced hundreds of businesses to close shop. Others are struggling to hold on.
Despite several efforts by government to create a more business-friendly environment, there's still way too many barriers for small enterprises, and this too is hampering efforts to create new jobs.
We need to put in the billions of money that are required to fund smaller businesses so that people can get loans that are at a rate that is better. The real issue is you need to have more people buying things in South Africa. That's all there is to it. We need to have more people taking loans from banks, borrowing money to buy cars, because we need to be selling more cars. We need to be selling more toothbrushes.
Unemployment remains stubbornly high at 27%. Youth unemployment is worse, and thousands of job losses are still pending in the mining sector. While Ramaphosa has been praised for his crackdown on corruption, he still doesn't enjoy enough support to make the bigger, more critical changes to grow this economy.
What has been weighing heavily on the economy also doesn't usually attract a lot of attention is the impact of industrial action that has escalated in recent months as a result of the contestation for power amongst trade unions ahead of the general election in May.
Ministers have been playing musical chairs in the last decade. Only a handful are new. It's hoped there will be more stability in government after the election so that key policies aimed at stimulating this economy can be fully implemented.
A huge fire has razed a section of toy market in Kibera, some 7 kilometers from Nairobi's central business district. Witnesses say the fire broke out at about 3 a.m. local time on Tuesday, and within 3 hours it has reduced to ashes probably worth millions of shillings. At the same time, the flames had spread fast. Shanties, including those in residential areas, were said to have smoldered after being burned to the ground. The open-air market, famous for used clothes, fresh produce. When we return, international news, UK Prime Minister's final Brexit plan to field test in Parliament. And later, sports. Zidane is back in Real Madrid.
are watching ANN.
Looking for some Disney magic but don't know where to find it? We've got a magical solution just for you. Simply go to disneynigeria.mobi and get an exciting selection of games, short videos, wallpapers, shareables, and more. Explore a whole new world of Disney on your mobile, tablet, or PC. For just 200 Naira monthly, you get to enjoy the fun to infinity and beyond. SMS Disney to 11006 to begin. Terms and conditions apply. This service is only available to MTN customers.
Welcome back. This is ANN News and World Event. UK Prime Minister Theresa May has won legally binding Brexit assurances from the European Union on Monday in a last-ditch attempt to sway rebellious British lawmakers who have threatened to vote down her divorce deal again. Scrambling to plot an orderly path out of the Brexit maze just days before the United Kingdom is due to leave on March the 29th. May rushed to Strasbourg to agree on additional assurances with European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker. Brexit supporters in the Prime Minister's party have accused her of surrendering to the EU. It is not clear if the new agreement she has reached with Juncker would be enough to win over the more than 100 additional lawmakers she needs to reverse the crushing defeat her deal suffered in January. The sticking point is still the Irish backstop, and May says the new deal is aimed at addressing that contentious part of the divorce deal. The Syrian Democratic Forces SDF said on Tuesday it has killed 38 Islamic State fighters in a U.S.-backed offensive against the jihadist final enclave in eastern Syria after the area was pounded by ferocious bombardment overnight. In a post on Twitter, Mustafa Bali, head of the SDF media office, said 3 SDF fighters were killed and 10 wounded. The Syrian war has displaced thousands of Syrians into neighboring countries. Some of them have made attempts to return home, but challenges along the road have grounded them. Hundreds are stuck in the Jordan-Iraq border. Here's the story.
No one probably imagined that Syrians fleeing for their lives in 2014 to the arid Rukban area near the Iraq-Jordan border would number 45,000 within a 5-year period, and that they'd be stranded and cut off from support, aid, food, water, and medicine for years, exposed to the elements in freezing cold winters and scorching hot summers. Syrians are returning home, but the displaced people stranded at Rukban are stuck, reportedly caught in a power struggle between rival extremists and Moscow and Damascus versus Washington.
Tens of thousands of stranded Syrians living in tattered tents and mud huts whose lives are controlled by militants vying for power.
The U.S. controls Syria's Rukban zone. Russia's government accuses the U.S. of holding the refugee camp hostage in order to validate a sustained presence there.
The camp is sealed off. It's been that way for a month. There's no movement from or to the camp. I can't leave.
Aid agencies and government officials are calling for repatriation of refugees, but the only way out for now is a medical corridor to Jordan, where about 100 people cross every day and are sent back after receiving treatment. Jordan's government has been criticized since 2016, when the Hashemite kingdom shut its borders to the desolate population after 6 Jordanian soldiers were killed by ISIS affiliates operating out of the remote desert area. Food and medical supply deliveries are sporadic. In January, a UN official described the situation as dire and a matter of life and death. Evacuating Rukban Syrians via humanitarian corridor is an urgent priority, but governing bodies controlling the area have to agree on coordination and logistics first.
The United States has announced late on Monday it is pulling the remaining staff from its embassy in Venezuela, citing the deteriorating situation in the South American nation. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo announced the decision as Venezuela struggles to restore electricity following 4 days of blackout around the country and a deepening political crisis. The U.S. has led an international effort to oust Socialist President Nicolas Maduro and replace him with opposition leader Juan Guaido, who has vowed to hold a new presidential election. At least 50 countries are backing Guaido, while Maduro maintains support from countries such as China, Russia, and Cuba. Most of the U.S. embassy personnel and some of the staff has been withdrawn already. Pompeo says the remaining diplomats will be out of Venezuela by the end of this week. Up next, sports. Zidane is back in Real Madrid. Stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Adam, go and bring us your husband. Okay, hello baby. We're in this together, okay? Can you hear me? Keep coming forward. Wait, stop. You okay, Lindsay, you're right? Keep walking down, keep walking to the left. Yes? You're almost here. Keep going. You are here. Wow, you did it.
I'm just so glad I didn't have to use my cane to do this.
And I am so glad no other man got you before me. Let me be your eyes.
We will never stop working to give you a network you can rely on, so you can enjoy life's special moments. MTN, everywhere you go.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sports, veteran striker Dimitri Bokani has been recalled to the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The squad for the decisive 2019 Africa Cup of Nations qualifier at home, where they will host Liberia this month. The former Norwich City, Hull City and Monaco players included in a 24-man squad chosen by Leopards coach Florent Ibenge. DR Congo need a victory in Kinshasa in the Group G match in any stand of qualifying for this year's finals in Egypt. And Bokani briefly quit international football in 2016 after the DR Congo Federation threatened to ban him for missing two 2017 Nations Cup qualifiers. But he resumed his career with the Leopards later the same year and went on to play at the 2017 Nations Cup in Gabon, which was the last time he wore his nation's jersey. Zinedine Zidane said he's very happy to be home after returning as Real Madrid manager just 10 months after leaving the Spanish Giants. The Frenchman replaces Santiago Solari, who was sacked after fewer than 5 months in charge. Former Real midfielder Zidane, who left in May after leading the club to a third straight Champions League trophy, has agreed to take over until 2022. Real Madrid are currently third in La Liga, 12 points behind leaders Barcelona. Real President Florentino Perez said, quote, "The best manager in the world has rejoined the club. Our destinies are once again united," end quote. That is ANN News Brief. Thank you for joining us. For details on this and other stories, visit the website annafrica.net. Conversation continues on the social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.